Welcome to Masters of Influence. I'm Jeff Lair, and Joe and I have been working on a couple of episodes on critical thinking and logic. But today, when we got together, we really started talking about what was going on in Minneapolis and decided to turn that into an episode. We're trying to stay away from politics, but it keeps dragging us in. And I think this is an important discussion. So we wanted to get our voices out there, and we're publishing this. Love to know what you think about it. And we can chat more about that on Masters of Influence. So here is our thoughts on the situation in Minneapolis. And we will come back next week with conversations about logic and critical thinking. Did you see the video?
Yeah, I'm super. I watched it a little while ago, and basically, executions are okay now. That's the new norm. The new normal is that
Am I crazy that it's just like
the
because they said like they're saying, oh, he had a gun, but he didn't have a gun in his hands.
No, the gun was that actually a guy took the gun. They now have a different angle. And the guy took the gun, so he had no gun. And there's no way he could have gone to his gun because both his elbows were pinned to the ground. And when your elbows are pinned, you can't move. You can't reach for anything.
When he is moving, you can see both hands. He has nothing in his hands.
He has nothing in his hands. He had a gun in his belt that he had a license to carry.
Still stupid, by the way. He shouldn't have been like. Is egregious what was done to him. It should not happen. However, look, if you are going to a protest like that, don't take a gun.
Don't bring
I mean, it just is not gonna. That's just stupid. But stupidity aside, it's legal. Even if you're stupid, right? You don't deserve to be gunned down in the back, Joe. In the back, they shot him in the back.
With an execution. And
the guy before he did it, he like moved people aside and then he shot him in the back.
Yeah. And the administration basically signaled every other ICE agent on the planet and said, it's okay, we'll get you back. Because they went on TV right away and said, oh, this was a justified shooting. This was good. And when you listen to it on Fox News and I watched it on CNN first, and then I went and watched it on Fox. And on Fox, it's all the guy's fault. Yeah. So it's all like this guy's trying to kill ICE agents, basically. And all
how are they justifying that though? Because there's
don't show the full video. That's how they
no evidence. So it goes back to what we were talking about before with context, right?
Very interesting. Like there's this two women talking. It's like, well, we don't know what happened 15 minutes before this. We don't know what led up to this. It doesn't matter what happened 15 minutes. That was an unjustified use of force.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because right before he was killed, they had pinned him to the ground. They had disarmed him, and they'd sprayed his face with a ton of pepper spray. I mean, the guy is probably writhing in agony with the pepper spray. Did you see like the amount of pepper spray? I mean, the guy must be suffering, right? Of course he's going to be writhing around. What else are you going to do? And as he's trying to help this other woman, right? He has nothing in his hands.
He had his phone. In his hand. That's all he had in his hand.
But I don't even think he had his phone in his hands when they shot him. Because if you look at his two hands, it doesn't look like he's holding
him. He had dropped his phone by that point when they shot him. I think
so. I don't see anything about it. You're convinced me that
they tackled him. They dropped. There's like 8 different camera angles now. So you can actually see what happened in the round now. And there will be no investigation. There will be nothing. This is a clean shoot as far as they're concerned. And so what I'm saying is that assassination or execution really by the regime is now okay. Execution by the regime is now okay. That's That's the world that we're living in now. If they want to come execute you, they can just come execute you whenever the fuck they want. And there's nothing anybody can do about it unless we decide we're going to do something as a country.
Yeah. Well, so yes, and it seems to me that this is a test to see how far they can go. Like, it almost seems like it's on purpose. Like, find a situation in which you can do this, and this is conspiracy.
Create a situation, not find one. They
Right.
created a
Create
situation
a
where they
situation and then do it, and let's see what happens, right? And that's conspiracy theory-ish, but I don't know, it just like they did good, they shot good, and
how
then this
conspiracy
guy,
theory.
it feels like each one is a little step up, and it's like begging the question, "So you're gonna do something now? You're gonna do something now? You're gonna do something now?" You know? And and the people who need to step up are the Republicans, because they're the ones, they can stop this now. They can stop it today.
The Republicans are now going to step up. And
No, I know. I look. I want to remain an optimist and say, you never know. But I agree with you. But
if
they're the ones who have to do it.
If I were the governor of that state, I would call the National Guard and call on my police to defend my people. And it would put me at odds with everything, and I would get arrested, and all kinds of things would happen. But that's what I would do.
Well, but that's.
I'd rather go to jail.
I feel like this is a state of civil war, and that's what happens in civil war. If you look at the letter that Bondi sent Waltz, and she wrote this letter, and it's just it's silly. It's like most of the things with this administration, like Trump at Davos, as much as anything, it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing that people say these things. Like she's saying, you refuse to enforce the law, you refuse to do these things, and it's just, it's like a bully calling somebody a bully, and using that as a defense, which is, their defense is a continuous offense. Would just ratchet up the offense, and there's no. There's just no sense to it. There's no, I don't know, I lost my train of thought, but it's just, it's unbelievable to me. Like you're saying that the governor has to protect his people and he might get arrested, right? But that to me is that if you're in a state of civil war, then yeah, you're going to get taken. One way to say it is you get taken prisoner of war. I mean, that isn't that what happens in a war? Like you have to fight, and then the other side fights.
If I were him, I would be okay with it. I'd rather get arrested defending my people.
Yeah.
Than just sit by and let them murder my citizens. Because that was murder. That was straight up
murder, right on the street. There's no
like freaking angles. That was murder, like straight fucking murder. Like. Yeah. That was murder. It was an assassination. It was an execution. And you really have to, it's an execution. Not an assassination, it's an execution.
Yeah. No, that's the important. It is an execution because he's there on the ground, basically on his knees, back pointed to the guy with the gun, and the guy shoots him point blank in the back. And unarmed because they'd already removed
like the big deal that they're making on Fox News is that they gave the guy CPR.
When did they give him CPR? What, after they shot him with 10 bullets?
Yeah, after they shot him with 10 bullets, that they gave him CPR.
Yeah, this probably makes it worse because you just pumped the blood out of all the holes you just made. I mean, I just wonder, for the people at Fox News, what are they thinking? Like, don't they care about the fact that, they're creating an authoritarian government, that's harassing and killing its people. I get that, the people in power want power, but the idea of the media is to provide that counterbalance, right? And
But when you watch the people on Fox News, the ones that are there now, because a lot of the people that were there are gone. And there's all these new people. Like, I don't recognize most of the faces that I see, except for the bootlickers that were there before, that were bootlickers before. They were bootlickers already.
yeah,
Before they were sycophants already. They were, they've been sycophants since like 2000. So that
yeah,
doesn't. I don't count those. But most of the people there that I see now on all the stations, I don't recognize any of these people. And the reason for that is because the people that had any semblance of a soul, they left or got fired because they said something that got them fired. Right. And
yeah,
then everybody else that came in, they've bought into the narrative. It's the same thing they're doing with the press room in the White House. They only have people that are bought into the narrative so that the questions that they get are consistent with the narrative that they're telling. And if anybody says anything inconsistent with the narrative that they're telling, little piggy, you're a little piggy. You're not a journalist. You're
yeah.
scummy.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
So it's
It still comes back to me. And I get that. So they've gotten rid of the people who had
so a lot of
awareness, but I still, I don't know. Like, you would think in a group of people that large that there would still be people who are disturbed by this sort of thing, right? Like, they all have kids
not,
and families, and
not
you know,
disturbed enough to speak against the group.
and
Not
I just
to get ostracized. See, the thing about mob mentality that's really interesting to me is that if you decide that you're going to speak against your mob, you're going to get ostracized. You're going to get excommunicated.
yeah.
And so you will tolerate things that you would not normally tolerate in order to not be excommunicated.
Yeah, and we talked about that in the episode with John F. Kennedy, where we talked about this idea of groupthink and how groupthink is so important in these types of situations. Um, it just still feels like it's so egregious. It's so bad that, it, yeah, I don't know. Like,
Well, it's
how
not
can you still,
hard, but I'm telling myself, right? If I
huh?
believe the story of the regime, if I believe the story of the regime, which is in the picture that they
Yeah,
put,
no,
it came
I,
to mentor ICE agents. That's what the post that they put out. If I
I,
believe the story of the regime, because I only listen to the news of the regime and I don't listen to anything else, and I listen to everything that's happening inside my bubble, the actions that I take make sense to me. And it doesn't matter how egregious
no,
they are.
but I guess I get that, but I just still think that there's a point at which it's too much, like, there's a point at which you realize that it's too much. I mean, there's a reason why we created democracy. There's a reason why we created these, because the systems were these power-based systems, and the people said that's too much, and people completely bought into it. But at some point, they said it's too much. I don't like that you're killing my family. I don't like that you're taxing without representation. I don't like these things that you're doing, so I'm going to act against them. And you end up with creating the system that we had, or going in the direction of creating these more democratic systems. I understand groupthink. I understand that I don't want to be ostracized from the group. Like, I understand all that. I can't believe it. I can't believe that there isn't somebody that these people aren't saying, well, this is a little bit scary, like, oh, so wait, now they're just shooting people on the street. And I read this article with some people were, concealed carry nuts who love the idea of running around with guns are now upset because the administration is saying, well, he shouldn't have been running around with guns. And they're like, well, wait a minute, but we're concealed carry people. Right? We got to run around with guns. And you'd think that more of that would happen because it's so internally inconsistent that people would say, oh, wait, no, oh, this is now affecting me. My view is you shouldn't have guns and they should be melted. Apparently, the current regime's view is if you have a gun, you deserve to be shot on sight.
Whether the gun's in your hand or not.
Yes. Huh?
Huh? Whether the gun's in your hand or not.
Whether the gun's in your hand or not. If you have a gun, you deserve to be shot. I guess I don't believe that if you have a gun, you deserve to be shot. I think if you're waving the gun at somebody and about to pull a trigger or look threatening, maybe, right? But even then, I would say your obligation is to try and not kill the person. I realize that aiming a gun is really tough and that you're probably going to miss no matter what. But still, like, it seems like you make an attempt to like shoot the legs or the arm or whatever, right? And
you can in most situations you can de-escalate. I've seen situations where the gun is out and the cop pulls their gun out and they de-escalate the situation through conversation.
yeah,
Right? You can de-escalate almost any situation unless the person is mentally unstable. If the person's mentally unstable, you just put them down. You hit center mass, you put them down. You don't try to shoot for the legs because you got to take them down, right? It's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one in that case, right? So in the
I
case
guess.
is if a person's in a mall and they're shooting at people.
Okay, well now you've gone to okay. Someone's in the mall and they're shooting at somebody is different than
But if
somebody pointing a gun at you.
somebody pulls out a gun and points a gun at you, you try to de-escalate the situation. That's really that's what I'm saying. Like, if
Right.
a person is rational, or even if they're a little irrational, but they are not mentally unstable, you can, in most cases, de-escalate the situation. Because
And your obligation is to try to de-escalate the situation.
that's your obligation. That's what you're trained to do. You're trained to de-escalate the situation because in most situations, the person's self-preservation will kick in at some point and go, oh, shit, I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to get arrested. All these bad things are going to happen to me. I should stop.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can appeal to that, it's like, look, this is not what you want to do with your life. This is not where you want to go. Trust me, this is going to be bad. Blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. You can de-escalate that situation. But that's not what right now it's about execution, dominance, power, and seeing how far can we take this. And we've seen in the communication, they're experts in communication. Experts. Like the communication machine, like it's 45 minutes after the shooting, the statement is out with pictures and who this person is, and then the state-sponsored media takes it and runs with it.
Right.
And runs with it and gets that out in front of everybody. And by the time the news cycle catches up, because you have to investigate it, you have to see what happened, it's too late. Everybody in that bubble has made up their mind about what happened. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says now. That's the truth is what got said.
Right. And that's sort of, what we were talking about in terms of, context and we define the, define the context. We let people define the context and through them defining the context for us, right? They determine what's true and what's not true. And if we're just letting them determine our context, we're letting them determine what's true and what's not true. But it still is. I understand all these things. It just, like I said the other day.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It wasn't just like I said the other day. It takes a lot to really sort of stop me and it shocked me, right? Like I was in the DRC once and we were almost sort of attacked by these miners that were around us. It was a really weird situation. They started surrounding us And the security guys like got out and they got us in the car, and I was completely calm. We just did it. We got out. It was another one where this guy was pointing a gun at me, and he's like this kid, and he's got this gun, and he's like, that to me is scarier than a criminal because he's like, he has no expectation of like he could just pull the trigger with that. Like there's no law there. There's nothing's gonna happen to him, right? And still, it didn't really. I was like, oh, that's kind of scary. It made a good story, but it didn't like shock me per se, right? But that video yesterday just called into question everything. That it's just amazing how it just hit to the core of all this stuff that we were taught, that we believed, that we've endorsed, that we've pretended that we were, is now just not true. And it was genuinely shocking.
That the other thing for me, I'm a relationships guy.
No.
You know that about. But the thing that it called into question for is I have friends in every people that are like hardcore right wing MAGA preppers, and people that are all the way crazy on the left, and people that are like, and everywhere in between. Can I remain friends with somebody who's okay with this? It called that into question for me, which is really hard, because the thing that is going to get us through this is being able to understand and communicate with each other, and to create space for each other. If somebody's okay with this, I don't
Maybe.
okay with.
I wonder if that's not changing.
If somebody's okay with this, I don't think that I'm okay with them. I don't think that I can be okay with that. I can't. If they go, oh, well, he got what he deserved, I can't talk to that person anymore. I can't find it in me. And I've never experienced in my life a place where I can't find compassion for somebody or their perspective. But I could see now that I could get to a place where I would have no compassion for somebody who's okay with that. Zero.
Yeah. It seems to me that it sort of becomes like a state of war. It becomes a state of it's feeling more and more like like a state of war, like a state of trying to control. And if you're not willing to be controlled, you are going to be forcefully controlled. And so the only way to separate yourself is, it is to defend yourself. And how can you in that case? It's like they're defining a situation in which you can't be friends with somebody who is in disagreement with you, right? Like, in Nazi Germany, a non-Nazi couldn't. How could you possibly be friends with a Nazi? You know what I mean? Like, because you've just defined the situation in such egregious terms, and the beliefs are so in opposition that where is the you've got to have some common ground to be friends. I mean, if you can't even agree on fundamentals like whether or not it's okay to shoot somebody in the back in the street, what else can you agree on? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like with the people, I guess where I've come down on that is I'm not going to debate them, and I'm not going to I just in a way, it's sort of like all the people who are just resigning. I'm not going to engage. I both don't want to legitimize. So I will not legitimize their arguments. And I feel like one of the way to legitimize the arguments is to engage with it. So what I typically do now is I'm not even gonna talk about that with you. Like I'm not even going to. I have other ways of saying it. It's like this argument isn't even argument that I'm willing to have. Like I just can't. I can't understand that side. I can't make the. One of the things that's important to me is to be able to make the counter argument. So when I'm arguing something, when I'm debating something, one of the things that I'm asking myself is, well, what is the counter argument? And it's really only through understanding the counter argument that you can have an argument. And the problem I have with talking about any of these things is that I don't understand the counter argument. And if we're going to talk about logic today, it doesn't, none of it follows a logical structure. It follows like an emotional structure, or it follows something other than a logical structure. And that's something where the argument is just not, you can't argue against it because there's no counter argument.
I go up to the roof. I bring a bowling ball with me. And the argument is that when I let go of that bowling ball, it's not going to fall. Like, there's an argument to that.
Exactly. How can you argue? You can say, well, okay, like, and they insist that it's not going to fall over and over again. And you just say,
you don't understand. You're going to put it, and it's just going to stay right there. It's not even going to fall. It's just going to stay right where you put it. That's where it's going to stay. It's going to stay right there. You're going to hold it out. You're going to let it go, and it's just going to stay there. And that's just not what to happen. So, like, you always say physics is physics. And in that case, is that clear? And this is that clear. Executing people on the street is that clear. There's no moral justification. There's no argument that you can make for that. This is okay. I don't care what you say. There's no argument that you can make so that it's okay. But then the question for me is, am I okay with continuing to have conversations with this person that thinks that that's okay? And that's it's not a hard one for me right now, right this moment, right? But I'm kind of built weird. I'm built to have like this inordinate amount of compassion for people and try and, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this but love them even in their stupidity. Right?
But there's nothing that says you can't love or have compassion for people. There's a difference between loving and having compassion for people and legitimizing their arguments. I mean,
but the question is that I can't even talk to them anymore because I can't move past the place.
But that's also not, that's not having compassion for them to talk to somebody.
I know,
Talking to somebody is not having compassion for somebody.
No, it's not having compassion. I can have compassion for them being lost, but what I'm saying is that I don't have a place to have any kind of relationship with them anymore where I could.
But that's fine. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that there's no compassion. It doesn't mean that there's no, right? Like what I always say is, look, when you wake up from your fever dream and realize that you're in a cult, I'm here for you, man. Like I'm not here to judge.
You're like sending that text message to like 30 people. When you wake up from your fever dream and you feel you're in a cult.
But the only reason you send that message is for you.
I know, but right? I wouldn't do it. But I almost feel like doing it. That's where I'm at. Like that's how I saw that video and I got so.
And that's where we are. That's where we are. It is a strange place to be. Like I've seen this in other places. I've written about this. I've studied it. Like to actually be I never actually thought that I would be in this. I remember pointing out to my political science professor at one point that all of these systems, they just depend so much on people acting in good faith. And she said to me, well, but everybody's always going to act in good faith. Everybody always has the same objective, and at the time I thought, wow, that's a brave thing to say, but who was I? I was like a, junior in college. I didn't know anything. Right. And I was like, oh, okay. So we just make that assumption. And it's very disturbing to me that she was wrong. I really don't want that to be the case, but what can you do? Right. Okay. So that is where we are going to end this episode. Next week we will get into talking more about arguments and how to have arguments and the logic of arguments, building on the context setting that we talked about last time. And this is all coming up, but we thought it was just good to get our voices out there talking about Minneapolis. We'd love to know what you are hearing, what you are thinking, and what you are doing. What actions are you taking, or are you not taking any actions and think we're crazy? Love to hear from you one way or the other, and maybe we'll chat about it next time on Masters of Influence. Talk to you then.